The Pembrokeshire Coast Path, 186 miles from St Dogmiles to Amroth in 13 days in September 2021. This was another glorious mum and son adventure. 2 weeks of sheer self-indulgence, walking the entire Pembrokeshire Coast Path in 13 days, with a total of 35,000 feet of ascent, apparently the equivalent of scaling Everest. Although the official distance is 186 miles, we actually walked 222 miles due to having to divert off the trail to our various places of accommodation and visiting interesting sites en route. Killer Day 1. St Dogmiles to Newport, 18 miles, 4,000 feet of gradient and 27 degrees. Here we are preparing to hit the trail in St Dogmiles. And here I am at the start of the trail in St Dogmiles. And we're off. We were worried that Alex would experience post-viral problems after having had COVID just before our walk. Fortunately, his quarantine ended the day before we left, and I didn't catch it. Fortunately, he managed to overcome his fatigue during the first few days and gained energy with each passing day. It is testament to his fortitude and endurance that he managed to overcome this challenge. St Dogmiles to Newport stage. And again St Dogmiles to Newport stage. Kybor Bay, Moyle Grove. Stone footbridge at Kybor Bay. Coastal erosion of the sandstone cliffs along this section has created some stunning coastal features. The Witch's Cauldron. Newport in the distance, nestling at the foot of the Preseli Mountains, where the bluestones at Stonehenge come from. Day 2, another killer day. Newport to Goodwick, 17 miles. Similar gradient to day 1 and blistering heat again. This is the 3,500-year-old Carreg Coetan burial chamber at Newport. One of the few shady spots on the trail during the first few days. Penny Fan on Dinas Head in the distance. St Brina's Church in Cwmorigloes in the Preseli district. Pen y Fan. Looking back towards Pen y Fan, the highest point on Dinas Island. Note, I had to buy a new hat because of the extreme heat. I'm slowly turning into a mad hat woman. Heading along the coast towards Fishguard, with dark shale cliffs, offshore stacks and tiny isolated beaches. A paradise for fulmars, gulls, razorbills, guillemots and cormorants. Looking back towards Dinas Island. Approaching Fishguard. The ruins of Fishguard Fort, built in 1781 to defend the community against privateers. Day 3, Goodwick to Abercastle, 20 miles, 4,000 feet of gradient, 28 degrees and no shade. The heat almost finished us off on this challenging day, but we somehow battled through. Note my brilliant new Ultra Trail shoes. They are so comfortable, like wearing slippers. Fleabane and purple loosestrife. Fleabane has been used in the past for driving away fleas, as well as for treating unspecified eye ailments and dysentery. Purple loosestrife has traditionally been used as a treatment for diarrhea, chronic intestinal catarrh, hemorrhoids, eczema, varicose veins, and bleeding gums. Strumblehead Lighthouse. Strumblehead. We saw a lot of seals along this section. All the little white bits in the bay below are seal pups. The mothers come ashore to give birth at this time of the year. The baby seals are constantly calling plaintively to their mothers. They sound like my cats, very needy. More typical scenery during the latter part of the day. Day 4, Abercastle to White Sands Bay, 18 miles. Here I am leaving Abercastle early in the morning. Fortunately, the merciless heat of the last few days had abated, making walking much easier. Looking back towards Abercastle Bay. Looking forwards to St David's Head in the far distance. This standing stone was located next to a small stone circle near Trevine. Port Gain, an old port, apparently one of the most popular places on the North Pembrokeshire coast. Needless to say, we steamed through in a vain attempt to avoid the crowds. Could this be a cheap lighthouse? Abercastle to White Sands Bay stage. The Blue Lagoon at Aberidi with St David's Head in the background. Coetan Arthur, a Neolithic burial chamber on St David's Head. St David's Head. The energy here was quite magical and very peaceful. It was one of the highlights of our walk. Porthmelgan Beach, looking out towards Ramsay Island. St David's Cathedral, constructed from purple sandstone, is one of the most important shrines of Christendom. Apparently, 2 pilgrimages to St David's are the equivalent of 1 to Rome. The site has a fascinating history and is well worth visiting. Day 5, White Sands Bay to Solva, 16.5 miles. This is the lifeboat station at St Justinian's. Welsh ponies in the mist. St Non's, complete with healing well and chapel. St Non's is now a peaceful retreat. St Non was the mother of St David, and this is where he was born. Day 6, Solva to Littlehaven, 16 miles. Leaving Solva early in the morning. We were starting to get well established into our routine of eat, sleep, walk, repeat. On the beach at Solva, my construction skills know no bounds. Dramatic rock formation near Druidston Haven. The battered feet of a long-distance walker. This was our lunch spot on Knowlton Haven Beach. Lovely puffin photo at our B&B in Littlehaven. We would love to return to this area and take a boat trip out to the Puffin Islands of Skomer and Stockholm. Apparently, the puffins live out at sea during the winter, but return to the islands between May and July to breed. They never come to the mainland. Day 7, Little Haven to Marlow Sands, 15.5 miles. Looking back at Little Haven as we hit the trail again. Hemp agrimony in the foreground. Despite serious safety concerns, hemp agrimony has sometimes been used for liver and gallbladder disorders, skin infections, colds and fever. This is Mill Haven, between Little Haven and St Bride's. A rock sculpture called Eyes of the Sea by Alan Ayres. Lunch spot at St Bride's. A Celtic cross inscribed on a 7th century stone at Martin's Haven. It is believed to be a prayer stone for travellers. Dead Man's Bay. Approaching Marlow Sands. Gatehome Island. Gatehome Island again. This video starts with Gatehome and then panning across to Stockholm and then finally to Skomer. Puffin cushions at our B&B in Marlow's. Day 8, Marlow Sands to Sandy Haven, 17 miles. Here I am outside the clock tower where we stayed in Marlow's and about to start our day. This video shows Stockholm and Gatehome as we leave Marlow Sands on day 8. Here is the continuation of our trail from Marlow Sands. Leaving Marlow Sands with Gatehome and the Puffin Island of Stockholm in the background. Approaching the Gan estuary crossing at Pickleridge. We ate our lunch while we waited for the tide to go down enough to allow us to cross. The Pickleridge crossing of the Gan. Day 9, Sandy Haven to Pembroke, 22 miles. This was our longest day, but there was less gradient. This was our first view of the industrial areas around Milford Haven. A bit of a blot on the horizon, but fascinating nonetheless. Milford Haven and the LNG installations looming large. Pipes running up from a dock to an LNG terminal. Ditto. Looking back towards Milford Haven from Neyland just before crossing the Cladow Bridge into Pembroke. Crossing that bridge was probably the low point of our walk because we had to walk 1.5 miles along a busy road in driving rain. It was extremely unpleasant. Super scary. I hate heights, and crossing this nasty bridge was almost one of my worst nightmares, but I rose to the challenge. I can happily stand on and walk along a cliff, but when you can see through the surface beneath your feet, something happens and I get extreme vertigo. Alex was proud of me. Day 10, Pembroke to Angle, 14.5 miles. Here is Pembroke Castle as we left the town early in the morning. This was one of our easiest days, and we were in Angle by lunchtime. Pembroke Castle, which is over 900 years old, is the birthplace of Henry Tudor, the father of Henry VIII. Milford Haven from the opposite side of the pond. Power station and more gas refinery installations. Ditto. How brilliant is this dragon? Day 11, Angle to Bosherton, 18 miles. This is the beach at West Angle. West Angle with Thorn Island on the left. The island fort, built in 1954, subsequently became a rather quirky hotel, but it is now closed. The beach at Freshwater West, said to be one of the most spectacular bays in Pembrokeshire, with 2.5 miles of sands. This is Freshwater Beach. We just come across that headlands there. There's Alex. And we're heading up over that brow of that hill in the distance to the Castle Martin firing range. Castle Martin Camp, a military firing range which we had to skirt because they were on manoeuvres. I can feel a new name for our house coming on. Day 12, Bosherton to Manorbier, 13 miles, and our shortest day. After doing 17 to 20 plus mile days most days, this felt like we hardly made any effort at all. It started off with the highlight of our adventure, the Bosherton lily ponds, which have to be one of the most beautiful, peaceful spots I have ever visited. These lakes, which cover approximately 100 acres, are part of a national nature reserve. They were created by the Cawdor family by damming a small river on their Stackpole estate. They are now owned by the National Trust. We were lucky to have the ponds to ourselves, because we heard that they get very busy with tourists later on in the day. Hardly surprising when you consider how beautiful they are. We could have stayed there all day, just soaking up the peaceful atmosphere. Definitely a place to go back to. Broadhaven Beach near Bosherton. Stackpole Head looking towards Barafundle Beach. This video was taken on Stackpole Head, looking back towards St Govan's Head and Church Island. Leaving Stackpole Quay. Barafundle Beach, totally unspoilt and remote. There is no road access here, although it can become quite crowded in the summer by people who have walked there, because it has been consistently voted as one of the most beautiful beaches in Britain. Day 13, Manorbier to Amroth, 17 miles. Our final day. This is the King's Quoit, a Neolithic burial chamber just outside Manorbier. View across to Caldey Island. This video was taken on Giltar Point, first looking towards Tenby, then Giltar Point itself with Caldey Island behind it. Charming street in Tenby. Tenby was heaving with tourists, so we didn't hang around and walked straight through at high speed. Looking back at Tenby. Fungi on the trail. Very pretty, but highly toxic. The end of our epic adventure in Amroth. Here we are at the end of the trail in Amroth. And here I am at the end of the trail in Amroth. Lessons learnt. Extreme distances, gradients and heat are a worthy challenge. The Pembrokeshire coast path is a worthy challenge. We developed a fascination for puffins and they became our trail motto. Because puffins never come to the mainland, we resolved to return to the area one day and take a boat out to the Puffin Islands to see them for ourselves. The Welsh word for dragon is dreg.